Hello and welcome to the Healthers Podcast.
I'm Melissa.
I'm Juan Carlos.
And I'm Daniela. And this podcast is to raise awareness on how all around the world we lack of high quality health services, even in the countries we wouldn't imagine. We will be talking about the poor quality medical services that are provided specifically in Mexico and the lack of sex education with the consequences it brings. Have you ever struggled with this problem, or are you aware of the specific situation our country is facing? Well, this is why we wanted to make sure our listeners are aware of what exactly is going on and what we can do to help fight this problem. With this week's podcast, we hope you learn something about it and encourage yourself to act upon it. We will denote 3 interviews related to a specific situation based on SDG number 3, which is health and well-being.
So, to begin with, the interview that stood out the most to me was a psychologist and psychotherapist specialized in this type of cases. I will express her thoughts and beliefs, which made me realize that there are a lot of more aspects that go along with sexual education. According to a psychologist, teaching young adults the essentials of sexuality is extremely important nowadays. Due to her professional practice, she has noticed that the lack of information causes young adults to make mistakes and wrong decisions.
Yes, I truly agree with her. Since I was a little kid, my school provided some education about the topic, so we will be aware of the consequences. But sometimes the school is not the main cause that these children do not receive this education, but the parents are the ones that are the guilty ones for their children to not receive this information, because they are I don't know if they feel afraid to let their children to know about this information since a young age, but I believe that it's really important for them to learn since they are young, because, well, then they will go and experiment themselves and bad things could happen.
Absolutely. In fact, she said that kids need to hear about the topic. They need to understand and get a full, clear comprehension so that they know all of the risks there are, not only speaking about physical changes like pregnancies or certain diseases, but also emotional influence.
Yeah, that is very true, because when a woman is going through pregnancy, not only does it affect her physically, but it affects her emotionally, and they should be treated for that as well.
Of course, having adequate information is fundamental. For a teenager, the knowledge and clarity of everything that implies having a sexual relationship is super important. The psychologist also believes that the age has an effect on the situation, as teenagers' hormones are more intense.
Well, moving on, my main focus for this podcast was raising awareness on the topic of public health care and well-being, and how it has affected the Mexican community in the past couple of decades. For my interview, I conducted an interview with a former IMSS doctor, and he explained to me the whole situation in a very descriptive way, and how the government has a leading role in the problem, and how they should also be taking control of the given situation.
Wow, that's really interesting. When I was conducting my interviews, I tried to contact a doctor that worked in the public sector, but I didn't have the chance to contact one. So, how do you know him, and what did he say about the difference between the public and the private sector?
Well, he's actually I have a cousin, and he's her husband, and they currently live in Brazil. But before moving to Brazil and becoming a surgeon, he was a public service doctor, and he worked at IMSS for some time, like 2 years. And he had both experiences in the private and public healthcare sector. And he told me how the public and private and both sectors should have the same amount of doctors with the same amount of experience, and the infrastructure on both sides shouldn't matter. Like how public hospitals shouldn't be in worse conditions than private hospitals, because the treatment should be the same, even though some people can't afford to pay for it because of their financial situation. That shouldn't matter, because in their health or well-being.
Yes, in fact, I believe the government in Mexico isn't taking in consideration of these people that can't afford the privilege that other people have. And it is a little unfair that they don't provide the right medical services they need.
Okay, keeping up with what my colleague Juan Carlos just said, I interviewed a sick person who had only access to the public sector health services, and he explained and shared with me how poorly people are treated inside the public hospitals. It was shocking to me to see the point of view of this person, since I had always had the private sector services. Therefore, I had no clue these type of problems were occurring inside my own country. What this person said, it was that, well, sometimes they don't receive the medical service right away, but when they do, they cannot afford the medicines and the treatments they need to end with their sickness or whatever they are facing.
I also found it shocking when I heard the interview you conducted. I wasn't aware of the type of services that were provided to the people who doesn't have the privilege to have the same doctors and hospitals as we do.
Yeah, it's amazing how a person could have the flu and the medical attention right away would not be as good as in private hospitals. But these people may be dying because of the lack of space and doctors or medicine or infrastructure in general for hospitals because they never get treated right on time.
Yes, it's sad to know that even myself didn't know about the problem these poor people are facing. I found it just so unfair that people who really need medical intervention doesn't have access to it most of the time. It made me realize that we should be more informed about these topics to start doing something about it. So yes, in conclusion, these interviews made me realize how uninformed we are about the topics that are happening inside our own country, and that we should be more informed about them. Well, that's it. Thanks for choosing us and for taking the time to listen our podcast. We hope that you enjoyed and learned something about this issue the whole world is facing.
If you would like to hear more about the topic and keep learning about it, subscribe to our podcast and listen to our weekly discussions.
This has been Healthers. Until next time, goodbye, and hope to have you again with us next week when we talk about poverty. Thank you.